Tonight on News 22.
A well-known local writer and educator is being remembered.
The ongoing influx of migrants continues to affect federal and local agencies.
And how much physical activity and sleep should your young child and baby have?
All that and more on News 22 Wednesday.
Serving southern New Mexico, this is the award-winning KRWG-TV News 22, where news matters.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gabriel Chavez.
And I'm Diana Castillo. One of the best known and respected members of the NMSU family passed away yesterday evening from cancer.
Mark Medoff taught at New Mexico State University for more than 50 years. One of Medoff's last public appearances was at the Las Cruces International Film Festival in February. He presented actor Edward James Olms the humanitarian award that was named after himself. Medoff began in the English department, later headed the theater arts department, and co-founded the university's American Southwest Theater Company. He also won a Tony Award for his play Children of a Lesser God and was nominated for an Academy Award for the screenplay of the movie.
He really loved working with people. I think I remember him saying, if you don't like people, get out of the theater. If you want to be a hermit, that's fine, but you'll never last in the theater if you don't like other people and can't get along, collaborate. He was really good at collaborating.
Ironically, Medoff will be honored this Friday at the Founders Day as an Aggie legend. A memorial service will be held on May 19th at the Medoff Theater at 2 o'clock.
New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham has a new vacated fill on the NMSU Board of Regents. This afternoon, Regent Doreen Hutcherson sent a letter to the governor resigning from the board effective April 30th. Hutchinson has almost 2 years remaining in her term, but her letter says she will resign because of personal and professional commitments. Her letter said she tried to change the conversation from status quo is acceptable to setting high expectations with another appointment. Governor Lujan Grisham will have appointed 4 of the 5 NMSU regents.
So the weather was really crazy yesterday, and then today, what happened?
It really has been. It's been pretty on and off. Danielle is next with your first look at weather.
Well, today we did experience some beautiful weather here in the city of Las Cruces. Right now we're looking at partly cloudy skies with temperatures at 76. We have winds coming out of the northwest at about 11 miles per hour. Our humidity is at 25%, dew point at 34, and a barometer reading at 29.80 inches. Looking at the weather we experienced today, we hit a high at 78 degrees, which is actually below our average for the year at 81, and we woke up to an overnight low at 52. Throwing it back to the year 2012, we hit record high temps at 91 degrees, and in the year 1968, record low at 30 degrees. We had no rain today, leaving our yearly rainfall at 0.75 inches. Those are all the current conditions I have for you right now, but I'll be back with your national forecast. For now, more news.
There has been an attack at the Doña Ana County Detention Center.
Larry Mitchell Hopkins is a former militia group leader that patrolled the U.S. border in Sunland Park. Officials say he was attacked Monday night but did not provide further details. He was in jail because he was charged with being a felon in possession of a firearm in connection to a federal investigation. The names of the suspects have not been released at this time.
U.S. and Border Protection spoke with the Doña Ana County commissioners to update them on those being affected by the migrants. Many other agencies across the Southwest are also being affected. Places where the migrants are being held are not large enough to hold those who are crossing into the U.S. illegally. So it's allowing more criminals to cross over into the U.S. without much restraint. Customs and Border Protections have their resources stretched out thin and can't properly help or screen people entering the country.
The U.S. is adding more security enhancements along the border of Mexico. New gates have been installed on a pedestrian bridge in the port of entry in the Rio Grande Valley. The Rio Grande Valley County is paying for the new gates, and within 2 months there will be a gate in the middle of every international bridge along the Rio Grande Valley.
The Supreme Court hears arguments in one of its most high-profile cases of the term, a question about citizenship. On 2020 census forms, lower courts say the Trump administration is overstepping authority.
The White House says it's vital to enforcing the voting rights. Karen Kafa has the details from Washington.
demonstrators outside the Supreme Court.
We demand our communities to be counted.
While inside, justices heard arguments in one of the term's most controversial cases. The Trump administration wants to include a question for all census recipients about their citizenship, something that hasn't happened since 1950. Challengers say it's designed to intimidate non-citizen immigrants and suppress participation.
Fundamentally, the census is a measure we use to deliver on one of our nation's core tenets, and that is the promise of fairness.
The census, taken every 10 years, determines allocation of congressional seats and electoral college votes, and the distribution of billions of dollars in federal funding. The White House has maintained the citizenship question has been on some forms for decades, with the exception of 2010, and is crucial to reinforcing federal voting rights law.
This is something that has been part of the census for decades, and something that the Department of Commerce felt strongly needed to be included again.
3 lower courts have ruled to block the question from appearing on the census form. During arguments Tuesday, conservative justices seemed to suggest the administration is within its rights to include it, while liberal justices honed in on how it could reduce respondents. The Supreme Court term is scheduled to end before the Census Bureau plans to begin printing forms on July 1st. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
The Census Bureau says they prepared 2 versions of the form in anticipation of an eventual ruling, one with a citizenship question and one without.
Police are looking for a 17-year-old boy suspected of killing a postal carrier in New Mexico.
Jose Hernandez was gunned down in Albuquerque Monday afternoon. As Kay Diminich reports, he was killed trying to do the right thing.
This Southwest Albuquerque neighborhood is grieving the loss of a man who brought so much joy to their community. Michael Shepard says everyone in this neighborhood knew their mailman.
Jose was a very special guy. He was not your ordinary mailman. He'd go out of his way, he would talk to you. If packages were too big to put in the mailbox, he would bring them over to your house.
Court documents say postal worker Jose Hernandez was delivering mail when he stepped in to help a mother who was fighting with her son. According to the documents, 17-year-old Xavier Zamora became aggressive toward the postal worker, so the postal worker maced him. Officials say the teen ran inside his mother's home, came back with a gun, and shot the postal worker in his stomach. The teen then ran back inside and refused to come out. Officers say the mother stayed with the postal worker until help could come, but he later died.
Totally innocent person defending somebody and then to be killed for it. It's senseless.
I talked to the postal worker's bishop and friend off camera. He told me he wasn't surprised to hear he lost his life helping someone else. He says before becoming a postal worker, Hernandez served in the Army. He's also a father of 4 kids.
It's a sad thing that somebody lost their temper, committed a crime against Jose when he didn't deserve it.
The 17-year-old ran away from the house after the incident. He was later charged with an open count of murder, and there's a warrant out for his arrest.
Stay tuned. Danielle will be back with your national forecast.
And later, babies and kids are in for some more playtime, according to health officials. More on that when News 22 continues.
Join us for KRWG's Beer Confidential at the Rio Grande Theater Friday, May 3rd at 7. Doors open at 5:30. A live on-stage discussion about the science of craft beer with free beer sampling and live jazz music outdoors. The live broadcast will be heard on KRWG-FM and KRWG.org. KRWG-TV and FM are licensed to New Mexico State University. The stations and university have an open meetings policy. The public may attend meetings of the Board of Regents and its committees, as well as the KRWG Patron Board as required by law. Meeting dates, times, and locations can be found online at krwg.org.
Welcome back. You're watching News 22 Wednesday,
where news matters.
The E. coli outbreak is spreading throughout 10 states.
Federal officials say more than 150 people have been infected with the bacteria. The illness is linked to tainted ground beef eaten at home as well as restaurants. According to the CDC, 20 of the victims had to be hospitalized, but no fatalities have been reported. A few of the states that are affected are Florida, Georgia, and Virginia. Officials say people can prevent the spread of E. coli by cooking ground beef properly and by washing their hands while preparing the meat.
Alarming new numbers in the measles outbreak, with the number of cases now surpassing the highest number on record in nearly 20 years.
Camilla Bernal takes a look at this.
681 diagnosed cases of measles. That's the highest number on record since the disease was declared eliminated nationwide in 2000.
20 years ago, we did say it was eradicated, and because of the lack of vaccination in a small group of people, we're now seeing it again.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which updates the numbers of measles cases each Monday, reported there have been 626 cases nationwide since the start of the year. But a CNN analysis of data from both state and local health departments found 681 cases of measles across 22 states.
Measles is extremely contagious. In a room full of people, those who aren't vaccinated are extremely at high risk for measles.
Among the symptoms, a rash of red spots, high fever, cough, runny nose, and red or watery eyes.
These symptoms can turn into serious complications. People die of the measles because they can develop pneumonia, you can get a brain infection.
Most of the cases have emerged in communities with low rates of vaccination, fueled by anti-vaccine messages many times posted on social media.
Prior to vaccination, millions of people got the measles and several hundred died, so there's no question this is a real disease with real consequences.
I'm Camila Bernal reporting.
Washington state lawmakers are taking action after passing a bill that will limit the exemptions for measles vaccines. The measure eliminates philosophical objections to the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, but preserves religious and medical exemptions. Both of those exemptions would require certificates signed by a healthcare practitioner. Without proof of an MMR vaccine or certificate, children would be forbidden from attending public schools, private schools, and daycare centers. Governor Jay Inslee is expected to sign the bill into law. Washington has seen 74 confirmed cases of measles this year.
For the greatest health benefits, how much playtime, screen time, and sleep time should your baby or young child have in a given day?
James Dinnan breaks down the new guidelines in today's Health Minute.
The World Health Organization has released its first set of guidelines on physical activity, sedentary behavior, and sleep for children under the age of 5. According to the guidelines, infants under a year old should get 12 to 17 hours of good quality sleep in a 24-hour period and be physically active several times a day, including 30 minutes of tummy time if they are not mobile yet. No screen time is recommended for infants. For 1 to 2-year-olds, sleep can drop to between 11 and 14 hours, and they should get at least 180 minutes of physical activity every day. Once they hit 2, no more than an hour of screen time is recommended. 3 to 4-year-olds should get 10 to 13 hours of sleep and 180 minutes of activity per day, at least 60 minutes of which should be moderate to vigorous. Still no more than 1 hour of screen time recommended for this group. The guidelines stress children should not be restrained in a stroller or strapped to a caregiver for more than an hour at a time. The organization has previously released recommendations for those over the age of 5. For today's Health Minute, I'm James Dinan.
When your mother told you to stop watching TV and go outside, she was right. But another growing enemy of physical activity is on the rise. A new study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association shows the time people spend sitting in front of computers is rising dramatically. 43% of Americans now use a computer for at least 2 hours a day. Teens spend about 8 hours sitting each day. Sitting for hours is known to contribute to obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Any physical activity is better than none, so get up and start moving. So as we know, we had that storm yesterday, but we are not the only ones experiencing some storms.
I heard that as well. It seems like Texas is up next. Danielle will tell us all about that in the national forecast.
That is exactly right. On my first map here, we're actually looking at a severe threat for weather conditions in the eastern and southeastern portions of Texas. We can see here Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas are all going to be experiencing some severe thunderstorms with this damaging winds, large hail, flooding downpours, and isolated tornadoes. The flash flooding will cause travel delays as well as travel disruptions, making it very difficult for people to be on the road. Now, on my next map, we're going to be looking at the greatest flood risks within these areas of the southeastern parts of Texas. We can see here again Dallas, Waco, and San Antonio all at great risk for flash flooding. Not only that, but flooded low water crossings. Now, motorists here on Interstate 10 and 20 are likely to experience delays and should turn around when encountering a flooded roadway. Remember that it only takes 1 foot of water to float many vehicles and 2 feet of water to sweep most cars away. Now, on my final map, we're going to be looking at these storms moving into Thursday. We can see here New Orleans and Jackson here at risk for these severe thunderstorms. Again, with these thunderstorms damaging wind gusts, flooding downpours, hail, travel disruptions, and again, those isolated tornadoes. So some helpful tips for these people living within these areas of Texas: stay indoors, stay away from windows, and stay cautious, because if you can hear the thunder, you are close enough to get struck by lightning. So those are all the national conditions I have for you right now, but don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with your local forecast.
On Masterpiece.
This kind lady and gentleman will look after you for a while.
He has turned the fortunes of our town around.
If you work well, you can prosper here.
The new chief of police is here to see you.
Sur le maire, my name is Javert.
Les Miserables on Masterpiece.
Thursday at 8 p.m.
Welcome to International Jazz Day, St. Petersburg.
Friday at 9 p.m. on KRWG-Public Media.
Welcome back. You're watching News 22 Wednesday. Taking a look at the temperatures across the state of New Mexico right now, we have Farmington up north at 71 degrees, Santa Fe at 61, Clovis at 67, Ruidoso lower at 59, Las Cruces here at 76, and Deming at 74. Looking at the temperatures for tomorrow, we have Santa Fe at 61, Gallup at 77, Albuquerque also at 77, Roswell at a high 85, Las Cruces here at 78, and Deming at a high 86. Looking at our neighboring cities, Alamogordo tonight, partly cloudy skies with 52 degrees. Tomorrow, clear skies at 83. Truth or Consequences, partly cloudy skies, 55, and tomorrow, partly cloudy skies with 87. Silver City tonight, clear skies at 47 degrees, tomorrow at 79. And here in Las Cruces, clear skies tonight at 52 degrees and clear skies tomorrow at 87. I'll talk more about your 5-day forecast later on in the show. For now, more news.
The movement to stop drunk driving has lost an effective advocate.
Here's Irene Romero with the Southwest Minute.
In 1999, Jackie Saborito was hit by a drunk driver in Austin, Texas, and was burned on 60% of her body, including her face. 2 of her friends were killed. She used her horrific injuries to show the dangers of drunk driving. She died at age 40 from cancer in Guatemala. The drunk driver served 7 years in prison and was released in 2008. A 70-year-old woman is dead after falling 200 feet in the Grand Canyon yesterday. Park rangers got a call that a person needed help, but the woman fell before they got there. It's the second fatal fall in the Grand Canyon this year. And a man and his prosthetic leg are finally reunited in California. The man was skydiving from 10,000 feet with friends when the leg fell off. A lumberyard man found the leg and police reported it to a nearby airport. Police reunited a skydiver with the leg. He was glad it didn't hit anybody. I'm Irene Romero with the Southwest Minute.
So I heard that Aggie athletes are going to be honored with a ceremony tonight.
I did too. It's really nice that they're being recognized. Here's Michaela Romero with sports.
Thanks, guys. Coming up in sports,
The men's baseball team is preparing for their games this upcoming weekend, and the women's track team has one more meet until the WAC championships. And find out why the New Mexico State athletes are all dressing to impress tonight. You can toss that remote because News 22 Sports is next.
There are artists everywhere. All you have to do is look.
Take an unforgettable journey to find artists redefining the American aesthetic.
This has the power to protect your imagination.
Our idea was to go into all of the communities that make the United States what it is. And what we found was amazing.
Friday at 8 p.m.
Coming up on Austin City Limits.
Comedy. Now that's what I call pure comedy. Red, white, and blue.
Saturday at 9 p.m. on KRWG Public Media.
This is KRWG-TV News 22 Sports.
Welcome back. I'm Michaela Romero, and let's talk sports. The New Mexico State men's baseball team is still grinding with a current overall record of 28-10. The men had a tough game this past weekend against Utah Valley, but they ended up taking the win with a score of 12-11. The men were supposed to play Sul Ross State yesterday, but due to the weather conditions, it was canceled. The Aggies are looking ahead to the weekend. They will be heading to California to take on Sacramento State. Their first game will be this Friday, and they won't be back home until Sunday night after their last game. And the New Mexico State women's track team is back from California and a long weekend of competition. The women competed at 2 different invitationals this past weekend with many impressive performances and some personal bests. Despite the hot weather, the women are now preparing for their last meet at the Desert Heat Classic in Tucson this weekend before the Outdoor WAC Championships. And this week's Athletes of the Week are Tristan Carranza and Dominique Galloway. Carranza is a senior from California and he plays infielder. This past weekend, he was a key player for the tough game against Utah Valley, and Galloway is a junior from Rio Rancho and has been showing impressive performances, making her also Player of the Year. She posted 5 top 5 finishes and she won the Aggie Invitational. And tonight, the New Mexico State athletes will be ditching their cleats and uniforms for something a little fancier. All the NMSU athletes and coaches are invited to attend the Aggie Awards in Corbett Center Ballroom. The student athletes have voted for Best Team, Best Female Athlete, Best Male Athlete, and Best Comeback Player of the Year. And the winners will be announced tonight, and they will all be recognized for all their hard work this year. And that's all for sports tonight. Join us for more sports action tomorrow. Still ahead on News 22, Danielle will be back to take a look at your 5-day forecast. But first, there is something more to taters than tots. More on that when News 22 continues.
This week on Central Texas Gardener, explore drought-tough lessons from Texas to California. Flora Grubb pinpoints the concepts she brought from Texas when she launched Flora Grubb Gardens in San Francisco. On tour, a small courtyard makeover pulled together plant and structural design. Daphne answers your top question, and Zach Halfin picks the right tools for fruit tree pruning. So let's get growing.
Saturday at 2 p.m. on KRWG Public Media.
On Cool the Midwife.
Hello?
Cyril Robinson.
This is all your fault. If you'd have done your job properly when you were meant to, she would not be like this now.
I'm here to work, Cyril, and I cannot allow myself to get distracted.
Sunday at 7 p.m.
Let's take a look at our top stories. A beloved NMSU professor and Academy Award nominee for Best Screenplay passed away yesterday, but his legacy continues in our community. Federal and local agencies are being affected, allowing criminals to cross into the U.S. without much restraint. And we learned that infants should be getting 12 to 17 hours of sleep and physical activity to live a healthy lifestyle.
Potatoes are the go-to vegetable for most Americans, but how about staying in one? In Boise, Idaho, you can do just that. This 6-ton potato is part of an Airbnb and is planted out in the middle of a field. This is a 1-bed, 1-bath and has AC, heating, and a fireplace. This plaster and metal structure used to travel the U.S. to celebrate 75 years of the Idaho Potato Commission. You'll be able to stay in the spud starting at $200 a night, beginning in late May.
That's really interesting.
That's really cool.
I would love to stay in that.
Same here, same here.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at our 5-day forecast. So the rest of the week is showing pretty clear skies. We can see the temperatures are remaining pretty consistent Friday through Sunday. We'll be seeing our temperatures at 91 degrees and we'll see our lows in the upper 50s. So we ditched the rain earlier this week and next week we're looking at mainly sunny skies.
That's awesome to hear.
And don't forget, you can catch all of our aired stories and past newscasts in our YouTube page at youtube.com/KRWG News 22.
And follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat for show updates and the latest on what the News 22 team is up to. And that's all for News 22 Wednesday. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight.
Tune in tomorrow for more news from across the Southwest. I'm Diana Castillo.
I'm Gabriel Chavez.
I'm Danielle Gutierrez.
I'm Michaela Romero.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
This news brief en español is brought to you by Noticias 22, Spanish language news for southern New Mexico and West Texas. Noticias 22.
Bienvenidos a este breve informativo de Noticias 22, con ustedes Francisco Soto. Fue conocido como un gran escritor y dramaturgo con raíces en Las Cruces, Nuevo México. El profesor de cine Mark Medoff de la Universidad Estatal de Nuevo México en Las Cruces falleció ayer martes. El video en su pantalla muestra a Medoff en una silla de ruedas. Esa fue la última vez que nuestras cámaras captaron a Medoff junto a Edward James Olmos en febrero. Mark Medoff del Instituto de Media Creativa de la universidad murió a los 79 años. Medoff recibió un premio Tony por escribir la historia para obra y película Children of a Lesser God. Un miembro de la mesa directiva de NMSU retira su cargo como regente de la universidad. Jareen Hutchinson dice en una carta escrita a la gobernadora de Nuevo México, Michelle Lujan Grisham, que por razones laborales y personales se retira de su puesto oficialmente el 30 de abril. Un supuesto incidente de asalto agravado en el centro de detención del condado de Doña Ana está bajo investigación. El incidente, que presuntamente ocurrió justo después de las 9 de la noche el pasado lunes, involucró un detenido federal que estaba detenido de parte de los alguaciles de los Estados Unidos. La presunta víctima ha sido identificada como Larry Hopkins, de 69 años. Hopkins recibió atención médica por lesiones no mortales. Ayer él fue trasladado fuera del centro de detención del condado de Doña Ana. Para Noticias 22, Francisco Soto.